Hey y'all, it's just me, Eileen. Tried this a while ago and I was videoing and it shut off. Kind of lost my train of thought on what I was talking about before, so I'll talk about something else. Um, this is around 8:30, 8:40 Thursday morning. And you see some of my kitty cats out here. There's Darla. And I think it's a little bit and possibly fancy. It might be, no, it's not a little bit. Let's see, zoom in. That might be a little bit. It's either a little bit or heartbeat. I'm not sure which. That is my little bit. And that right there next to her, it's either fancy or gray. I think it's fancy. It's hard to tell them apart. Just ain't got my glasses on and they're in the shade. But we got kitties. And they're enjoying a nice morning. I'm enjoying the nice morning. Piggy's asleep. And I have to say, I've spent more time outside this summer, spring, whatever, than I have in the past couple of years. Weather's actually been decent. Before it was either too cold or too hot. And right now it's actually nice enough I can enjoy it. I tell you what, y'all, I am so ready to be out of here. Don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful area. It's just, I need a change. Definitely need a change. But when God's timing is right, it'll happen. It always does. Don't have to worry too much about things when God starts things a-rolling. Oh, man. I have trying to think of what to talk about, y'all. I really am. I don't know if I want to talk about my thoughts, my family. I'll talk about my family. Talked about my mom and my grandmom some, and my aunts. And I'll talk about my family. There's my grandmother. Her name was Selma. And my poppy. That's my granddad. His name was John. And they met back in the 1940s. My grandmother was born and raised in Langston, Alabama, which is, I believe, in Marshall County. It's part of it, I think, is in Jackson County. Part of it is in Marshall County, Alabama. And my granddad was born and raised in the Oleander community of Marshall County. And he had 3 sisters, 3 older sisters. I believe he was the youngest. So there was Velma, Lillian, and Jimmy were his sisters. Velma was the oldest. Lillian was next, and then there was Jimmy. Jimmy was blind. And so my granddad kind of watched out for her. Now, he told me that, let's see, my granddad was born in 1918. And I want to say his mom died in childbirth. Because he said he never knew his mom. Now, he does have 2 older half-sisters. or had 2 older half-sisters, I should say, from his dad's first marriage. But I've only ever met one of his sisters that I know of, and that was Aunt Lillian. My grandmother, she was I want to say the 3rd born. She had an older brother. Well, she had an older sister named Vera. Then she had a brother named Bud. And she had a younger brother named Johnny. And I don't really remember meeting Aunt Vera, but I'm pretty sure I did. And I know I met Uncle Bud. But until my grandmother passed away, when I was 7 years old, I never knew she had a younger brother named Johnny. Never heard of him. Never heard anybody talk about him. He had never, to my knowledge, never came to see her. At least I know my uncle said that he never came to see her, so. Say hello, Darla. There's my Darla. So, I mean, I didn't know anything about him, like I said, until I was 7 after my grandmother passed away. The only time I'd ever heard of him was when he came to her funeral. And then there's my mom. My mom was the 2nd born in her family. She has an older brother and a younger sister by her mom and dad. And my grandparents separated when my mom was 2 and my aunt was 1. My uncle would have been 3. Yeah, they had them all together. My uncle was born in 46, my mom was born in 47, and my aunt was born in 48. And by 1949, my grandmother and my grandfather had separated and went their separate ways. My granddad moved on and he remarried, and he and his 2nd wife had 2 boys, Ed and Johnny. Ed was their oldest, Johnny's their youngest. And then there was, my grandmother went on to have 3 more children. She had my Aunt Lois, who was born in 51. And then she had Anna Lee, who was born, I believe, in 1953. She was born, I think, November 1953, and she passed away from a heart attack in January 1954. She was just a few months old. And then in 1955, she had my Aunt Ruthie. Now, my Aunt Lee and my Aunt Ruthie had the same father. And Aunt Lois had a different father. No, my grandmother did not marry them. She was not married to them. I do not judge my grandmother for the decisions she made in life. Those were her decisions. Whether they were right or wrong, God had a reason for my aunts to be here. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But like I said, my mom was the 2nd oldest in her line. And so if I add all my aunts and uncles up together on that side, it goes my Uncle Pete, then my mom, then my Aunt Elsie. See, Aunt Lois was born 51, January 51, so it would be her. And then Ed was born in May of 51. So then it would be Ed, which is my granddad's oldest from his 2nd marriage. And then it would have been Anna Lee. And then Johnny. And then my Aunt Ruthie. My Aunt Ruthie would have been the baby. Well, she was born in June of 55. And I believe Johnny was born March of 55. And I know, y'all, I'm giving y'all details y'all don't really need to know. But, you know, I'm that way. I'm OCD kind of when it comes to stuff like that. But I never knew Ed and Johnny until I was in my late teens. I think I was 17 when I met them. I knew about them. Now, I grew up around the others. I grew up with my Uncle Pete and Aunt Shirley, that's his wife, and I spent some time around and with my Aunt Elsie and Uncle Albert. That was her first husband. And of course, my Aunt Lois and Uncle JC, which was her first husband, and Uncle Melvin later on, which was her second husband. Never met Anna Lee again. She passed well before I was born. And then I did spend time with my Aunt Ruth and Uncle Wayne, which was her husband. Learned a lot from all of them. You know, I learned from my grandmother, you know, family's important. You spend time with family. Unfortunately, through the years, that has kind of went to the wayside. Really and truthfully, over the years, there was only two after my grandmother passed that tried to keep our family together. And that was my mom and my Aunt Lois. And when I say tried to keep them together, I'm saying my mom made efforts to keep in touch with her brother and sisters, to spend time with them. Now, if I hurt feelings, I hurt feelings on this. I mean, I don't really care. But very rarely, if ever, did any of I know of maybe twice after my grandmother passed away in 1977 until my stepdad passed away in 1986 that my uncle came to visit us at our home. That was my Uncle Pete. I don't remember any of my aunts ever coming to our home to visit until my stepdad passed away, and then it was only to the house for us to pick up some stuff so that we could go stay with my aunt for a while. And then after my stepdad passed away, in 1987, my mom and I moved to Kentucky. And in that time, there was I know twice in the 15 years that we lived in Kentucky that my aunts and uncle, I should say my aunts and uncles that were living, came to visit. Other than for my granddad's funeral in 1997. And then they showed up then. But it's a case of if we ever saw them, I had to, you know, it was my stepdad taking my mom and myself to visit my family. Or when he died, it was me making that drive to take her to visit with her family. She didn't get to visit. Otherwise, she talked to him on the telephone. She would call. But they never made that effort to come and visit her. Now, after my granddad died, my Aunt Elsie would come up quite a bit. But that was after he passed away. And then my mom and I moved from Kentucky to Alabama in 2002, November 2002, so that she could be closer to her family. It would be easier for everybody to come and see her, and she wouldn't have to do all the traveling. Because we lived, I want to say, about an hour and a half from my Aunt Elsie, and about an hour to an hour and a half from my Uncle Pete and Aunt Shirley, and my Aunt Ruth, and Uncle Wayne, and my Aunt Lois. So, you know, we had that much that we, you know, we were that much closer. It was like a little over a 4-hour drive otherwise. And because when we lived in Kentucky, it was like a 4 to 4.5 hour drive to visit my Aunt Elsie, and it was about a 4.5 hour drive to visit the rest of the family. So we cut that in half by a lot. You know, less than half when we moved back to Alabama. And still, it was me making allowances to take my mom to visit everybody. They came to visit my mom. Let's see, Uncle Pete and Aunt Shirley came to visit once, and we went out to eat. Aunt Elsie would come up to visit quite a bit. Um, Aunt Lois, I think, visited. Well, Aunt Lois came up when Mama passed away because Aunt Lois stayed busy. She worked, and then when she got sick, it was hard on her to travel. Aunt Ruth and Uncle Wayne came up once for my mom's 61st birthday and my Aunt Elsie's 60th birthday. Um, it, it was hard. It was hard. I love my family, but I'm not going to sugarcoat the fact that, I know that my mom was the one that did 90% of the calling. I would actually say 95% of the calling to check on them. And when it came time to visit and check on them and spend time with them, we're the ones that did 95% of the traveling to do that. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Piggy and I have been married 9 years. We've been together 11 years. And in that time, my Aunt Elsie has visited me 3 times. My Aunt Lois visited when we got married. And none of the rest of my family's ever been here. So, that hopefully tells y'all a little bit about family. But I don't know why I'm talking about this. I really don't. But, I can't really say anything because, I was talking about, my mom had 2 half-brothers in Kentucky. Well, I met them when we moved up there. And they made no effort to really spend time with us much. Love them dearly. They're my family. I love all my family. Don't necessarily like all of them, but I love all of them. But, since when Mom passed away, we called and let them know they didn't come down for the funeral, which, that was their choice. I can't say is that if anything ever happened to them, I'd go up there. Because when I left Kentucky, I said I was never going back, and I haven't been back in 22 years. Almost 22 years. This November will be 22 years since I left Kentucky, and I haven't been back. But, sometimes you sit and you think about your family, and you kind of wonder, is it truly family or is it just kinfolk? Is it somebody that is just blood related, or is it somebody you can count on? And I'm going to put it out there. I mean, I've got maybe 1 or 2 in my family that if I truly needed anything, I could contact them, and I might get a response from them. But other than keeping track with some of my cousins and stuff on Facebook, I haven't talked to my aunts and uncles. I talked to one aunt. That's my Aunt Lois. And oh my gosh, probably since 2018. And that was at Walter's funeral, which Walter was my Aunt Elsie's second husband. And he passed away in 2018, and I saw some of my family at his funeral. Well, I take that back. I have talked to him since then. I called him and gave him my phone number when I got it. I think I got it in September 2019. Something like that. Around 2019. We got our internet through RTC and got a phone number. And I called him and gave him a phone number. And I heard from my Uncle Wayne a couple of times. And haven't heard from him since. I heard from Uncle Pete one time. Haven't heard from him since. It doesn't do me any good to try to call anybody, because if I try to call them, I don't get a response. If I send text messages, nobody responds. So I got to the point I don't try to contact anybody by text or by phone. If I need to get in touch with them, I usually try to send them a message on Facebook Messenger. Not like that does any good either. But as much as I love my family, they're more kin than family. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I think of family right now, I used to growing up, when I thought of family, I thought of my granny, my papa. I should say my poppy. That's what I called him, was Poppy. My granny, my poppy, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. Those were my family. Now, my family are those that are there for me, leaving me comments, inspiring me, wishing me a good day. They're my family. They are the ones that I interact with pretty much on a daily or every other daily basis, at least a weekly basis. My Saturday nights is filled with family. Now, they're not blood kin, but they're family. They're family of the heart. And I have family of the heart that I have chosen, that God has brought into my life to lift me up. And I'm thankful for that. I am truly thankful. So yeah, please know that sometimes just because it says family don't mean that they're family. Family don't necessarily mean blood kin. Family means the ones that's there for you, the ones that support you, the ones that encourage you. And I sit here and told you about my my kin. I told you about my blood kin. But my family are the ones that are there for me on a daily basis, that are there for me, encouraging me and loving me, supporting me. And if you're one of those and you know it, then you know that you're my family and I love you. Thank y'all for watching.